Okay, so welcome again, everyone. Thank you for being here this evening. Before we begin, we would like to start with a land acknowledgement. Niagara College acknowledges the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe peoples, many of whom continue to live and work here today. This territory is covered by the Upper Canada Treaties and is within the land protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. Today, this gathering place is home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people, and acknowledging this reminds us that our great standard of life and living is directly related to the resources and friendship of Indigenous peoples. And I'm going to turn the floor over to Dr. Giacomo Folinazzo, our founder of the Center for Research and Education, also the research lead for the language stream of the center.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. I'm very excited to see so many people present here virtually from different institutions, some familiar faces. We really appreciate your participation. It is only thanks to your interest that we're able to continue and have a speaker series. So we're excited because this is the second speaker series since we launched the center in September, the past September, and I'm excited to announce that the center has expanded into now we have 4 different streams. So we have the language education stream, for which I am the research lead. And then we have a business and management stream with Dr. Susan Ehlert as the research lead, and also nursing, the nursing research stream, nursing education research stream with Dr. Huldred Hodeman. And tonight, we will be looking at the first talk for the educational technology stream, and Dr. Faith Marcel is the research lead. So we are with the goal of the center is to produce and disseminate new knowledge related to different topics in education. So we really appreciate your participation, and we hope that the center grows, and we hope that you enjoyed tonight's talk, and I'm sure you will. And as a colleague, the best kind of way to show your gratitude is to tell other colleagues and help us grow the talks, which will be in the future. Will also start being delivered in person at the college. So welcome you all, and without further ado, please enjoy your talk. And again, thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you so much, Giacomo. I echo your thanks. We're so incredibly grateful to have all of you here with us this evening, our TESOL students, my co-professor in our workplace communication and practicum course, Kelly Pawakumar, who's with us this evening, our community partners, colleagues, friends joining us from across Ontario and perhaps even from across the globe. We have some invitees from perhaps from Italy and from Japan. So we're really excited to have you all here joining us in this virtual space. And as we have the opportunity to launch today's topic within our educational technology stream, this is a topic, of course, connected to all areas of education. So it is my absolute pleasure to introduce this afternoon speaker, Dr. Phoebe Kang. Dr. Kang is an assistant professor at the Institute for the Study of University Pedagogy at the University of Toronto, Mississauga, or UTM. And with over 15 years of experience in higher education, she's worked extensively in developing curricula for English for academic purposes and has taught at Brock University and Niagara College prior to joining UTM. Dr. Kang brings such a wealth of knowledge and expertise in teaching English as a second language as well, internationalization, equity, and topics really connected to educational technology, including AI guidelines, academic integrity policies, and pedagogies as well. So we're very fortunate to have her here this evening. And over the years, I've also had the pleasure and privilege of working alongside Dr. Kang, both here at Niagara College in our School of English Language Studies and through some of our recent research together on AI and academic integrity. And it's always such a pleasure. It's such a rewarding experience to be able to collaborate with her. And it is an honor to have her with us today. So I'm sure her insights will spark some incredibly valuable discussions following her talk as well. So with that, we'll jump right into the presentation. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and hand the floor over to Phoebe.
Thanks so much, Faith. I'm gonna share my screen. I'm gonna mute one of the participants so we can all hear each other. Okay, so here we go. Okay. All right, so thank you so much for coming to this talk this afternoon, and thank you, Dr. Folinazzo and to Dr. Marcel for inviting me to this space. I am hoping to really have, great conversations on this very interesting and very timely topic that we are all trying to navigate, in this a bit slightly chaotic time with ever-changing technology here. So I am going to actually draw on, sorry, I'm trying to go to the next slide. What is not working here? Oh, sorry, yes, here we go. Okay, so yeah, I'm gonna go and give you some sorry, it just keeps popping up. So, okay. So I'm going to give you some context of, current state of AI in education in a global context, as well as what's happening in Canada. I'm going to draw on recent research Dr. Marcel and myself had on academic integrity and AI guidelines in Canadian higher education. We're going to kind of walk you through, especially my research and faith research and how we are getting to this point, and based on that research, I'm going to talk a little bit about critical AI literacy, what that means in a scholarly work. At the same time, what the institutions are talking about. We'll talk a little bit about implications for teaching and learning in language classrooms, and we're going to open up the floor for Q&A and conversation and comments. Before we get into that, actual AI discussions, and I just wanted to introduce my where I'm coming from, on this topic. How did I get to this topic? So you can see, a few pictures of me with the students. In the top left and the top in the middle. Actually, the picture in the middle is where when I taught at Niagara College. So that was in 2018. So it is incredibly exciting to see the Center for Research in Education in Niagara College here. Yes, so I started my career in Canada as an EAP, ESL instructor. And also locally in Niagara, I held a position of TESOL Niagara president, for 6 years. So that's through that, I really got to know beyond, university and college sector English language teaching. I got to know a little bit more about LINC and ESL and settlement field, their challenges and their struggles, and at the same time, their successes, dealing with international new immigrants at the same time. A lot of, struggling refugees and things like that, that really opened my eyes. So, so after my teaching, at Brock mostly, I realized, some of my students, in my class who are struggling, coming from different parts of the world, their struggles were not necessarily academic related. They were coming from, their struggles were actually outside of the class. It could be actually accommodate acculturation issues, or even like kind of cultural differences or homesickness, mental health, challenges, and all of these issues are actually beyond the curriculum issue, in EAP. So I pursued my doctoral studies at OISE under educational leadership and policy. So that's partly how I got into bigger kind of policy world. So I was looking at a lot on institutional, provincial, and then federal, and sometimes global level of policies. And when AI, the emergency of AI became my reality in my own teaching and learning context, I felt like, okay, I really need to take a look at what is going on in this world, in the AI world in education. So I'm going to talk a little bit about, what people have been saying, let's say in a, scholarly or news world. But I do want to invite you, if you feel comfortable, if you could talk a little bit about your successes, challenges, frustrations, or any kinds of comments, in the chat box, that would be really great for us to have a good start. So if you could, put it in the chat, what do you say about Gen AI and education in your teaching and learning context? I think that would be really, really, it will generate really great conversation throughout the session. So yeah, could you put it in the chat, if you feel comfortable? I think somebody has typed in something. Okay, so that's okay. Giacomo says new opportunities for teaching and learning and new challenges as well. Yes. So opportunities and challenges for sure. Yeah. Any other comments about any thoughts on AI in your teaching and learning realities now? I think there's a lot of kind of confusion. I think that is definitely the case. And also, I have heard frustration, that's another word. I don't personally use AI for ethical and environmental reasons, but I understand its ubiquity. Yes. Yeah. Powerful tool. And as any tool, it depends on how it's used. Yeah, that's correct. That is what, everybody's trying to navigate, right? Right? I think that is exactly right. Thank you, Danielle. Okay, so I'm going to move on to what people have been saying about this, not necessarily in a scholarly work yet, but I do want to bring it to your attention that, recently Jeffrey Hinton from U of T won, the Nobel Prize on the AI. So, but interestingly enough, in 2023, this article from MIT Management talks about how Jeffrey Hinton, the sort of, considered as a creator of this tool or this technology, he is actually very concerned about, development of AI, how this is really alarming, it's an existential threat, all kinds of scary words here. Oh, okay. There was one more comment here. I find that if I'm open with my students on the use of AI and I teach them basic AI literacy, they tend to use it to cheat less. Oh, okay. This is really interesting. Okay, great. So, yeah, so this is sort of a, kind of more technological perspective of AI, but definitely educators, on the ground level have been feeling that, okay, how do we deal with teaching and also, pedagogically sound, introduction of AI. So all of those things are definitely being discussed right now, right? So again, in 2023, this is when Faith and I started kind of collecting data on the policy level. And this is an opinion article from Inside Higher Ed. Scott says ChatGPT is enrolled in your courses and your students are checking out. We're in a crisis. It's time to start acting like it. There's another word, a crisis, right? So definitely there were lots of reactions when this was introduced in our teaching first. This is a very, very recent article from Chronicles. And another kind of worrying, this author is quite worried. With ChatGPT and other AI tools, cheating in college feels easier than ever, and students are telling professors that it's no big deal. This is an American article. So what they're trying to say here is actually students are now saying that, if you say, okay, you use ChatGPT and, you sort of cheated on this. But then the student will say, well, no, I was just having a conversation with ChatGPT. So, so the kind of parameters or kind of almost like a framework of what traditionally cheating was considered to be in students' perception, it's really shifting. So that's an interesting kind of development. Another article from, I think this was the University of Toronto magazine. Yeah, here, look at any high school or college academic integrity policy, and you'll find sorry. You'll find the same message, submit work that reflects your own thinking or face discipline. A year ago, this was just about the most common sense rule on earth. Today, it's laughably naive. Again, this is when a lot of educators, in higher education context, especially were sort of really reacting, to this new tool because of the sort of a lack of guidelines or, definition or conceptualization of, misconduct. So all of those things were being discussed, especially in North American context. So I want to get into a bit more of a global context here. So a lot of documents, on a global context is being produced by UNESCO. So funny enough, this was just in 2023, right, article. And it already feels kind of like outdated because, the rapid kind of changing nature of this technology, right? So it does talk about, we really need stronger ethical rules for this, right? And then a UNESCO recommendation on ethics of AI sets the appropriate normative framework. Our member states all endorsed this recommendation in November 2021. That's what it says. But then another document UNESCO released, it says only one country in January 2023 released a regulation on generative AI in July. So at that time, the country was China. So after that, more countries were joining this kind of trend of releasing national guidelines. So I see some comments here. Okay. I'm gonna revisit this after the presentation, if that's okay. So by 2022, Government of Canada, released these kind of guiding principles, this very overarching kind of somewhat generic kind of principles. Understand the measure, be transparent, provide meaningful explanation, be as open as we can, provide sufficient training. Pretty generic. It could be applied in any sectors, in these principles. But I don't know if you read the news recently. Actually, Government of Canada, they launched Canadian Artificial Intelligence Safety Institute. So finally, they're taking a much bigger measure and much bigger kind of control kind of on, the ethical use of AI or safety of AI, right? So that was released in November 12 in 2024. So definitely, on a kind of individual and educators level, to the institutional level and governmental level, things are moving forward in a sense that, people are talking about ethics, people are talking about safety, and actually more actions are being made right now. So, as educators in higher education, we really cannot, we kind of have to talk about it, academic integrity here. So UNESCO, this is also most recent UNESCO guidelines. And then they talk about how higher education institutions, they have to update their guidance on the use of AI in teaching and learning assessment have become significantly more pronounced with the popularization of ChatGPT tools and corresponding AI detection tools. So definitely there's a call, significant call for higher education to update their guidance on this. This is partly why Faith and I were motivated to work on this article because, we were reading all these kind of global level of guidelines or, these documents being released. But we were wondering about, what is happening in Canada. It is very curious. And then we weren't really receiving a lot of direct or clear guidelines at the time. So we worked on this article study, examining AI guidelines in Canadian universities, implications on academic integrity and academic writing. So in this case, academic writing involves a second language academic writing too. So if you would like to get the article, I have included the QR code here. So associated with that article, actually, interestingly enough, let me just go back here. So I was trying to remember the exact time of the release of this article, but just very soon after that article was released, we actually got contacted by this journalist from Canadian Affairs, and were asked to have an interview about this article because we looked at actually U15, all the research intensive universities in the guidelines, and she said U15 themselves just released an kind of principles, also somewhat generic, but still they released it. So she said she was looking for any research that may have been done on that particular topic, and our research article popped up. So I just wanted to share some of the things that we were able to share with that interview that sort of touches on today's talk as well. So yes, I'm just trying to move these. Okay, so I can see it better. Okay, so I just cut it out. If you would like to get the article, I'm sure you can get it too. Cut it out our part of the interviews related to the article. So not many universities have official policies about proper AI use. Okay, I'm just gonna get to. So yeah, we examined the information that several Canadian universities have produced on generative AI. Some have guidelines, but guidelines are less authoritative than official university policies. The policy comes with consequences. That's what I said. And the universities may be hesitant to write official policies because they want more research, or because generative AI changes too rapidly for policies to remain current. A lot of responsibility lies with individual faculty members in how they make the decision on what is acceptable, what is not acceptable, which requires a lot of conversation, in our discipline, and also broadly, in the higher education landscape, disciplinary landscape too. So professors need training about generative AI, it's what Faith said, and continued professional development is really important to be able to get the word out there. There's still students who are aware of AI, but are not exactly sure if they can use it or not, okay? And faculty members are in the same boat. So we emphasize that, clear communication is key. Students need to know what the expectations are in each course, which is an interesting topic in and of itself, right? So I'm gonna give you very brief research overview of Faith and my work. So we did a thorough document analysis on Canadian universities, U15 plus one, which includes York. York is not part of U15, which means research intensive university across Canada, from West Coast to East Coast. So we looked at academic integrity policies, AI ChatGPT policies and guidelines, and we also looked at any other textual data. So we were trying to identify emerging themes and key ethical, pedagogical policy implications for educators. So these are the members of U15. Thanks to Faith French ability, we were also able to look at the French universities as well. So that was pretty exciting for us. So research questions included what are common themes and key principles and strategies within the publicly available AI guidelines policies from Canadian University. What do these themes, principles, strategies align with their academic integrity policies? What are some of the implications of these findings of teaching and learning for writing intensified disciplines? So at the time of our document analysis, we found that in AI guidelines, I'm going to keep using the word guidelines because no university was calling it a policy. So information for educators, students on AI ChatGPT. So usually they say what it is, guidance on allowing its use, when can you use it, connections to academic integrity policies. They actually say, oh, see academic integrity policies, but actually there isn't a lot of direct connection. And what to do in the case of academic dishonesty, referring back to that, academic integrity policies, detection tools available and their limitations. Actually, majority of the universities said, they don't allow detection tools, but I think there was one university, it may have been Western, talked about using turn it in. But I think more and more universities are moving away from detection tools because they're just not reliable right now. The strategies for using and leveraging AI, long or short term, and sometimes they talk about kind of research implications too, language for course outline, so like what kind of policy language they could use, or FAQs as well. So just to give you kind of a gist of our findings, sorry. I need the second screen. Okay, so academic integrity policies all present, while AI policies or guidelines are not consistently publicly available at the moment. This was at the moment in 2023, but I revisited some of the, institutions, and that is still the case, So it is definitely an interesting phenomenon that we are dealing with here. And AI guidelines are provided in some universities under the name of Q&A, FAQs, or university newsletters, but not in the form of a official document. Sometimes they don't provide that level yet. I think they're, again, hesitant to commit to that language. The focus is generally on designing assessments, academic writing, writing essays, research ethics, graduate students, thesis writing, etc. So they have some best practices type of thing, but still, more resources are being developed, right? All universities seem to be hesitant to develop published official policies, as I just said, due to the ever-changing, evolving nature of Gen AI tools, right? So second question is, I'm going to quickly go over this. I'm watching the time. So yeah, these were the things that we were able to identify, in all the documents that we saw. So we kind of categorize under these themes of informational AI resources, reference to existing academic integrity policies, assessment and essay writing resources, decision-making guidance for faculty students, pedagogical applications for AI for faculty, miscellaneous resources, AI detection software, AI as a tool for learning for students, community connections, ethical considerations, communication guidance, critical thinking information and tools, AI and indigenous knowledges, which was really only one university, I believe, talked about it. I'm sure since then, more universities have touched on it. So in terms of alignment, we basically saw very little alignment. So meaning that they talk about, okay, like if this happened, if students misused it, look at the academic integrity policy, but then academic integrity policy doesn't actually refer to the specific use of AI. So, they continue talking about, okay, look at this, look at that. We really value academic integrity, fair assessment, so important. But, there isn't much of a direct connection, which leaves a lot of educators and faculty members a bit frustrated. So implications here. So all the universities with some level of AI guidelines do not ban the use of AI tools, meaning that they don't necessarily encourage it, but they don't necessarily also say like, we prohibit this, right? So they leave because partly the disciplinary changes. So in a STEM or other field, that when you go out to the actual field of their a profession, it is almost encouraged to use it. So in a certain discipline, they cannot really ban that, so there is varying, realities of, the faculties dealing with here. And again, no reliable AI detection software available yet. That is still the case. And importance of AI literacy. I'm going to talk a little bit more about this after we finish talking about our research on this particular article. AI literacy promotes responsible and ethical use of AI, So that is an interesting kind of terminology here. What does responsible and ethical mean in this case? So AI-based large language modules could improve lexical diversity within ELL students. So some people did say, maybe this is a bit of a leg up for, ELL students, but at the same time, other people view that as, how are they going to really learn the fundamental, language skills? So there is a bit of a debate, but, for ELL students, definitely this could come as a possible tool for their learning. But at the same time, I think developing AI literacy in tandem is really essential. Okay, so in terms of particular writing instruction issues here, so most of the concerns coming from the writing intensive disciplines, or including actually EAP context, is academic integrity, helping them really understand the authorship of it. So definitely that is being discussed in many documents. At the same time, some of the literature as well. I think this is an interesting term, authorized AI tool use. So if I could share my teaching context, we are allowed to develop our own AI policy for our class, but that authorized AI tool can be so tricky to communicate, with our students. I know, in some of the folks in the chats that, by discussing this, with students, it can be very helpful for their learning. Let me just hear. Yeah, I use the authorized AI tool used, and it has worked well. I would like to invite Kim after talking to this. So yeah. So because I think an understanding of what authorized AI tool means actually really differ, the individual to individual faculty. So yeah, I would love to hear from you later on. And we all know this, multiple drafts, right? As Cotton et al., this article is not from TESOL, not from linguistics, not from education. Actually, a lot of AI writing related articles are coming from different disciplines like biology or medical studies or in engineering and things like that. So they bring these multiple drafts as an essential part of checking the students' originality of their work, and also factual accuracy. And the accuracy and authenticity of citations and references. Actually, I thought the hallucination phase has passed, but I think it still creates some kind of fabricated, citations. So definitely, students don't want to use that for that particular purpose. And also, this article is just about 2 years old, maybe not even, when they talked about, ChatGPT produces quite formulaic, results, some people say, oh, that is not the case anymore. It's so sophisticated. As somebody who deals with a lot of first-year writing, I think it still, produces somewhat formulaic patterns because, ultimately, ChatGPT is operating under the premise of pattern checking, right? So that's an interesting one. Okay, so I'm going to talk about now this. So literacy, AI literacy, and critical AI literacy, which is sort of theme of this topic, this talk. So can I also invite, the participants to the chat, your understanding of literacy, AI literacy, and critical AI literacy in the chat, that briefly, it doesn't have to be really long answers. That would be great, because I think defining the concept of literacy, AI literacy, and critical AI literacy is also causing a little bit of confusion and on the ground level in the classroom context. So I don't know, would you say that, we can use this interchangeably, or they all have a separate definition? Okay, so Natalie said, being able to understand the purpose of AI, I guess that is AI literacy. Yeah. Separate meaning, yeah, refers to the ability to critically understand, evaluate, and interact with AI systems. Okay, being able to understand the purpose of AI and the limitations and biases. Okay, thank you so much for, okay, more coming in. Critical literacy is, I think, understand the means of production, reproduction of content, soft hardware as interconnected to but distinct distinct from its potential efficacy. I think these are all amazing definitions and concepts, that we coming from each of you educator here. You know what? This is what I did, I was actually curious what ChatGPT and Copilot, the most prevalent, Gen AI tools that we are dealing with. And sorry. This is what I got from them. I asked the same prompt to ChatGPT and Microsoft Copilot. Give me the definition of literacy, give me the definition of AI literacy, give me the definition of critical AI literacy, right? So if you look at the left, that's what ChatGPT produced. The one on the right is Copilot produced here. So I think there are a lot of similarities, between the two, what they're referring to, but it comes with a different format, right? So critical AI literacy, let's look at those two from the two Gen AI tools. So critical AI literacy extends beyond basic AI literacy by emphasizing the need to interrogate AI systems from ethical, political, and social perspectives. It involves understanding power structures, biases, and the potential harms embedded in AI technologies, as well as the ways AI reinforces or challenges existing inequalities. Critical AI literacy encourages individuals to question AI's role in society, advocate for fair and just AI policies, and engage in responsible AI usage. So that's what ChatGPT said. And then what Copilot said was critical AI literacy goes a step further. So based on AI literacy, so you know how to use it and being aware of the ethical societal implications of AI and the need to critically assess AI technologies. This means analyzing how AI systems are designed and deployed, questioning the biases and assumptions built into AI models, evaluating the broader impacts of AI on society, and including ethical considerations and potential risks. So these concepts are essential for navigating and making informed decisions in an increasingly digital and AI-driven world. So from the both answers from the Gen AI tools, I think what I gathered is the words like interrogate or question. I think those are really crucial when we associate our understanding of critical AI literacy, right? Wonder what DeepSeek would say. Yeah. I'm not really familiar with that, but yeah, I wonder, maybe I'll look it up after. So I actually was pleasantly surprised, what these two tools were able to generate as answers, when I asked about definition, right? So I just wanted to talk a little bit more about what the scholarly work is talking about in terms of AI literacy and critical AI literacy. So this work is a really recent publication from Velander, Otero, and Millerod. They're all from Europe. Actually, these folks are from Europe. And they said, so a significant challenge lies concerning the prevalence of ill-defined concepts in educational policies and curricula. This is exactly what, Faith and my research was kind of talking about. There's lack of kind of understanding, that on the same page, people are not on the same page. As I mentioned, it may be inevitable, discipline by discipline, and again, in the constant fluctuation, evolution of the technology, needing to adapt the teaching materials and resources, and a call for continuous training of the educators. I think a constant effort to maintain humanistic views of agency requires knowledge of AI concepts. So going back to what ChatGPT and the Copilot produced as a definition of critical AI literacy, I think those words interrogate, question, evaluate, and all of those things make what human knowledge a human, right? So in terms of TESOL field, especially this is important for the TESOL educators because we actually deal with somewhat vulnerable learners in the society. So if we do not interrogate, do not ask, do not evaluate, what these Gen AI tools produce as results, and we don't help the students develop that critical eyes, I think this is going to be may not be always a positive outcome. So I was also interested in looking at some of the institutional approaches, partly because I believe when Faith and I did the document analysis, only at that time, University of Calgary talked about developing AI literacy is really important. And U of Calgary said being AI literate is the ability to understand, use, and reflect critically on AI applications without necessarily being able to create and develop AI models like someone with a computer science background. Understanding how to use AI as a tool to enhance your work is how you become AI literate. Well, they don't go really like so still somewhat generic definition, but when they say critically, right, then it feels almost like AI literacy and critical AI literacy. It is being used interchangeably in certain institutions now. Calgary University actually suggested this robot test model, but that was also being shared at McGill. I also revisited McGill's AI literacy. So still under development, not too much of a concrete resources coming out, but I think it's under development. And AI, so I'm gonna have some concluding thoughts here. So AI guidelines and the use of AI in higher education and language learning classrooms and remain in the gray zone in a way, again, it is our kind of responsibility. At the same time, we have some control over how that could look like for our students, right? So I think it's actually important to develop sector discipline student body specific guidelines, which is lacking in terms of big institutions like universities. They want to bring kind of generic ideas and then leaving it up to each faculty member upon interpretation. I don't know, that could be somewhat confusing when we talk about transferring of the knowledge or the application of pedagogy. So I feel sometimes a bit frustrated about this lack of guidelines specific to discipline and specific to student body. In the main discourse around AI use, and we just talked about authorized use of AI, I'm going to invite Kim to talk about this a little bit. I was just going to say, yeah, and also, yeah, we don't want to confuse our international multilingual new immigrant students when they come to Canadian ESL classrooms, because sometimes the AI, excuse me, AI guidelines, national level of AI guidelines may look actually different. They may be coming from very different realities of AI, right? So that's another concern that we want to factor in. Yes, and definitely at this time of AI development, teaching and learning practices is so important, and definitely a continuous teaching and teacher development is unavoidable and is very essential. So I'm going to leave with some of these questions. I'm sure other folks in the room have different questions too. I was trying to get, kind of representative of an image of what a classroom, of a language classroom looks like from the Google search. So that's what I got, and you can probably relate to this picture on the left. And when I asked about a future language classroom, and that's what I got. So is this going to be our reality? I'm not sure. And how soon? I'm not sure. If we can shape this new reality or future, what would that look like? And then how do we continue fostering human values in education in our classroom? So those are the questions I'm leaving with you. So I just wanted to say thank you, everybody, for continuously participating throughout the talk. And I'm being mindful of the time for any Q&A at this time. So thank you very much for listening. And yeah, so let's have some conversations here. Maybe because I keep bringing up Kim's name to help us understand some, best practices on authorized AI use. May I invite you, Kim?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I'll just be really quick. So what I found useful is I put on every assignment, I have a little badge that I put on and it specifies what is allowed and what is not allowed. And I do that right from the very first week. although I don't really talk about it straight away, but it's sort of there. And then we cover it in more depth. But what I found was most useful was using analogy. I attended an online webinar with Mary Davis from the UK, and she said that, sort of getting the students to understand, because AI use, eventually they become sort of like a co-author. So getting the students to understand that concept. So she used, sorry, I'm just going to fiddle with my light here. She used an analogy related to driving, which I couldn't operationalize in my classroom. So I changed it to cake. And so I use the example of, a cake that's baked from scratch, a cake that comes from a cake mix, and a Costco cake. And sort of like, well, so which one's mine? And, and which one's, and so we sort of, so it always sort of comes back to, so depending on the assignment, the task, which one is it? And, which one is allowed? And they seem to get the idea that, the cake mix could be okay if they were allowed to do that, but otherwise, it would sort of depend on, that was sort of the gray zone. You'd have to figure out if that was allowed, but the other two were very clear.
Yeah, that's great. So that's an interesting, I think that analogy is very clear, like from scratch, with cake mix. Costco cake, that's the point, right? Costco cake, somewhat generic cake that you can buy easily and cheaply, and it's sort of mass produced. So
Like
it's
on a
not
slab,
definitely
right?
not from a, really unique, yeah, like a dessert making place or anything like that. So that's a really interesting analogy. I think that's great. Did any students have any like kind of concerns about using it? If you let them use it? I'm just curious because
A
I'm
little.
asking you this. One of my first year writing class students, he said, this student said, I actually don't want us to have even an option to use ChatGPT or any Gen AI tool. I think that actually is inequitable. So,
Yeah.
so that's a really interesting conversation as well. I think there are three groups of faculty members, like leaning towards more like a, as you said, kind of from the scratch, right? Right, cake
Yes, no, or
baking from
maybe.
scratch. So no AI, like sort of prohibition, right? And then, maybe you can use cake mix is like embracing it, right? Embracing that concept, and then you are integrating it, actively, So those are the three groups. And yeah, I think the students, if I could share a little bit my experience in teaching in first year writing class is students are a bit confused about all this upon interpretation authorized AI use because that could look like certain way in, Phoebe's class, but then they go to biology class and then the authorized AI use looks very different. So when we talk about transfer of knowledge, transfer of skill set, I think students are really confused about that. So I see some comments in the chat here connected to Kim Henry's point. Martin Peters logos for transparent use of AI may be useful. Okay, yeah, maybe we'll look that up. So yeah, I want to invite other folks for any comments, questions, or point of discussion or anything like that. Okay, so Natalie says, I have been very hesitant to try any activities using AI to reduce confusion in other classes. Yes, that's that, right? That's that group of faculty members who feel like, we want to kind of minimize the confusion, of course, but, between the disciplines and also, different expectations on the course. So yeah, it's very tricky right now, I find. Any other kind of points or comments or support or disapproval or, challenges you experience in the class? Anything like that? I may have missed some really important points in the chat. Okay. Okay, maybe Matthew's point, understanding the underpinnings of language, in this case, English language literacy, use and knowledge of function of AI and its tools to support learning, AI literacy. Okay, so I have, oh yeah, good. Kim's always so resourceful. Thank you so much. Okay, promote, prevent, and prosecute, tailoring academic integrity. Yes, these are strong words, especially prosecute. So I wanted to also share that, I have another research that's under review. This article is under review. I interviewed writing instructors in university and asked their emotional reactions, impact on AI in their teaching. I think we got many interesting words coming out of, these interviewees' thoughts and experiences. Okay, so Haley has something here. When you were conducting your research, did you find more AI policies at the university-wide or departmental level? University-wide, because I think departmental level may have something internally, but I don't think they were publicly available. Or they were still, at the time of our scanning and examination, I think they may have been still working on the departmental level of policy. So we weren't really able to access departmental level. It was more like broadly institutional level. Yeah. Okay, so Natalie has a comment here. I have been using AI in my workplace language class for the resume and cover letter development, including teaching using proper prompts and editing for accuracy. Students have enjoyed it. There you go. I think this is a really practical application of AI, and especially for certain ESL program, I think their goal is getting into the kind of work realities, right? I think in that case, that could be helpful for sure. And let's not also, oh, sorry, Danielle, go ahead. Yeah, Danielle has a comment or a question.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, can hear you.
Yeah, I just want to thank you for the presentation and say that I really appreciate you discussing the idea of AI, like critical literacy, right? And I think that is so important for us as we continue to move into a world where we don't know what the next day will be like, right? And like you're talking about DeepSeek, that's just the latest. That's the Chinese AI tool that is supposed to be more powerful, or at least works with fewer chips than OpenAI. And it was a revolution when it became available. And anyway, that is an interesting point for us to talk as well. But I wanted to share that I believe that there are so many benefits in terms of using AI. There are problems as well. But the critical literacy piece here is that we need to interrogate these social inequalities that come with the use of the tool. The paid version of ChatGPT, for example, and what they can do for you, right? And the latest one that it can pay $200 American dollars per month to create any kind of videos that you want. So all this to say that there is some epistemic capital that you get as you use these tools, right? Like we need to interrogate that. Like if I am able to have critical, I use this tool in a way that allows me to build this epistemic capital. How about the people who cannot use that, or who given the affordances to use that? Like in a world where this is going to be necessary, right? How do we talk about? Are we creating a society where we're going to be divided into our abilities to use AI, our worlds, like our jobs? Who are they going to be hiring? What is going to be, what skills, right? And what I believe it leads us to question the role of education. What are we doing in our classrooms? How are we supporting our students for a world that might not actually ask them to write anything, that might actually ask them to use the tool in ways that we can't even imagine right now, right? So there are lots of questions. I'm working with some scholars from the global south to question that, right? Because that's another point here. I'm working on a chapter in the book where we question the inequalities and the affordances that are given to countries like Canada, the US, that have easy access to the tool, and how about the rest of the world? Which again, it's a very interesting development, right? So just
and also the language, right, that we are using, the how Gen AI is heavily resourceful in English, but the all the information they're scraping from may be already biased. So that's another power differential that we're not addressing here, right? So definitely there's so much to, as you said, interrogate, question, evaluate, and revisit, right? All of those things may have to in cyclical format. So thanks so much, Danielle. And I'd love to read your book chapter when it comes out. Please let us know. Okay.
Yeah.
I think we're over 5:32. So Faith, wanna take over?
Thank you so much, Dr. Kang. Thank you, Phoebe. We greatly appreciate your talk today. It was so incredibly helpful, so insightful, so timely and relevant to all of our practice at this time. And we are incredibly thankful for you taking the time out to be with us here this evening to share your knowledge and expertise and experience. And thank you to all of our guests here this evening as well. We appreciate your time as well. And our students who are here with us for another hour. We have another hour of class following this. So we will take a short break before our class resumes, but we just want to say thank you so much. In the chat, I'll post the link for the Center for Research and Education. And if you scroll to the bottom, you can join our mailing list as well to stay updated with future events and talks that we will be having for our different streams. So thank you once again, Dr. Kang, to Phoebe, thank you, and to everyone who is here with us this evening. Giacomo, would you like to add any comments before we close?
I'd just like to again thank Dr. Kang and everybody for not only being here, but also participating and being engaged in this topic that of course impacts us all, regardless of where we teach and what we teach and at what level. So it's very it's a great satisfaction to see that we're creating a community and when we can share our best practices, and this is wonderful. So I look forward to seeing you all again soon.
If I may have just a few words before I go, I just wanted to thank you, all the participants, for such an engaging conversation on the chat. It's been a while that I had this much engagement, on the chat. So I just wanted to thank the center, Giacomo and Faith, and all the participants. It's lovely to be back, to the TESOL world. This is my home. So I just wanted to say thank you to all. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Phoebe. Really appreciate it. And have a wonderful evening, everyone. Thank you. To our students, we'll take a 10-minute break. So I'd say 5:35, so 5:45, we'll come back together. And thank you to all of our colleagues and friends again for joining us this evening. I look forward to seeing you all soon, and have a wonderful evening. I know our students may stay on and just have cameras off for now, and then we'll turn cameras back on once we get to 5:35. So I'll stop that recording now. Just be a moment.
Hey, thank you so much for everything. Very, very